welcome back, everybody. This is
Yeah,
Music Talk with Dave and Mike.
howdy, friends and neighbors.
So,
El Monte Slim.
Mike, you having a little weather out there, I hear.
Yep, snow. Can't work on my car.
You can have the snow. We've had plenty of rain out here. We're just south of all the snow, thank goodness. But it's just as bad, cold rain. I'd rather have snow. So,
Yeah, well, I snow driving those big 40-foot buses around ain't fun.
yeah, yeah, they don't drive much. They do a lot of sliding, right?
I've bounced off a few curves.
Yeah. Well, first thing I want to do is give a shout out to someone we just lost here recently, and that is Chick Corea.
Yeah,
And as a bass player, when I was coming up, I mean, Chick Corea turned me on to a lot of avenues. This is the first album I ever bought, and this is Return to Forever. Of course, it's got Stanley Clark, Lenny White, Bill Connors, and then from there, you found all kinds of other stuff through Chick. I mean, his acoustic band with Dave Weckl,
yep, yep.
John Patitucci,
There you go.
and then Al Di Meola as well. So a lot of avenues I went down because of Chick Corea, and I mean, I all of my jazz inspirations came from Chick somehow or another, and it's a major loss to the music world. May he rest in peace. His music will live on forever,
Yep.
and he's touched a lot of lives. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on board with you on that. I mean, I think probably the other bigger influence on me, other than watching Tonight Show,
Right.
as
That's true.
was I used to go out to Fort Monroe and hear the Army band, and I didn't know it at the time, but a couple of years later I heard about it. It was Steve Gadd was playing drums in the Army band there. It's like, wow, okay.
Well,
And he was doing his recording stuff too. It was kind of weird. I read a story about it too. It was like, that's how I figured it out. It's like, damn, I must have been watching Steve Gadd.
yeah.
But yeah, Chick Corea, I mean, it's a big loss there.
Sure is.
Huge loss.
Monster in the jazz community for sure. And, we send out prayers to his family for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So today we are reviewing the latest Deep Purple CD, and it's called Whoosh. And this is what the album cover looks like. Pretty decent looking album cover. However, I don't really understand what it has to do with the record, but it's a cool album cover just the same. I tried to figure it out, and I mean, the only thing I could think of is if they're trying to go through a perspective of if a spaceman landed on Earth or something. I don't know. It looks like I don't know. I really don't know. I don't understand the concept of it.
Yeah.
I was looking for some kind of spaceman song, but I never did find one. This is what the album cover looks like.
Yeah.
A little bit of odd liner notes here. The words are kind of written sporadically. Had a hard time following it, to tell you the truth. At a couple points, the words and stuff are kind of the same color as the record, as the background. So it's like I don't, little hard for old people like me to read to read it.
You know what? Take some trace of paper and lay it over top of that, and just do the outline and see what you come up with.
Spend some time and make it bigger. If I bought the vinyl, I could probably read it better. But
yeah,
just kind of an odd way. It was an odd way of doing the lyrics. I don't know. I'm not sure why they did it. But anyway. Yeah. So overall, I mean, so what was your first impression of the CD right off the bat?
Well, right off the bat, dealing with the first song, I was enthralled. I was like, wow, coming right out of the chute blasting. And I wasn't let down. I mean, again, you've got Ian Gillan and Ian Pace, and you got Roger Glover there.
Right.
Steve Morse covered guitar great. I mean, a lot of times I could close my eyes on a lot of the songs and swear them down. There was a lot of Ritchie Blackmore influence there,
Yeah.
Um,
And you got Don Airy
keys,
on keys.
yeah, the keys. I was still missing John Lord though. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard, hard to replace John Lord. But I will say, I've actually followed this era of Deep Purple for a while. I mean, Steve Morse has been with the band for 20 years now, maybe
yeah,
25 years actually, getting close to 25 years, I think.
as long as
Uh,
Rainbow's been around.
yeah, and I mean, and Don Airy came in the band probably around, I don't know, 2003, 2005 era,
Yeah, yeah,
because I remember seeing him playing live, and I think John Lord might have came back after that. He was going through some problems or something, but there's a couple things about this one. If you go back to the Abandoned CD when Steve Morse first came in the band,
uh-huh.
it was produced by the band. Roger Glover did a lot of producing on it, so it had a Deep Purple, more Deep Purple feel for me. It still
Right,
had John Lord, obviously, um, but then they moved into another producer the next couple albums, which would be Bananas and Rapture of the Deep. And they had a guy named Mike Bradford who had, in my opinion, a terrible drum sound on it. It was really, I don't know what he was thinking, but the drum sound was bad. But overall, the sound was still good. And then in 2013, they hooked up with this guy, Bob Ezrin, who's done some stuff for like Pink Floyd, a couple other big name bands. And
right.
he's done 3 albums with them now, 2013, 2017, and this one. It was Now What, Infinite, and then Whoosh. And my biggest thing about Bob Ezrin is I know he is a major influence on how the songs were written. All 3 of these CDs almost sound the same.
Oh, really?
I
See,
mean,
I haven't heard the other ones.
yeah. So going through them, if you go back, if I played you a couple songs and ask you which one of those albums it was off of, you would never know because they almost sound identical. And
Right.
and I mean, even some of the spoken word parts that you get in here, they've done that on the last 2 albums. And I you know, I don't know. I will say one thing: the playing's great. I mean, these guys are, no doubt experts at their field.
Oh, yeah.
I had a problem. My main problem was with Steve Morris's sound. His guitar sound sounded the same in every song. There
Yeah.
was no changes. And
Yeah.
back before Bob Ezrin came along, and it may have something to do with Steve Morris's signature guitar and amp, because I know he's got a signature amp head now with Engel, and that amp head has 4 mids on it. Okay. With 4 mids, he's cranking these mids. And the biggest issue with that to me is when you have Don Airy playing on the Hammond and him playing on the guitar, it sounds the same. There's no difference there. So
Yeah.
I was having a hard time with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. My bigger issue with some of the playing, like you saying, I mean, they all know their jobs inside and out. And I'll say this: I'm gonna give Ian Gillan some props, and I'll always give Ian Pace props for his talents. I mean,
Yeah.
Gillan's lost his range, but the range that he's got, he certainly uses it to the max.
Well,
And he I don't get tired. I don't get fatigued listening to him sing.
no,
It's
because
not boring.
yeah, he's a good singer. And that's the
Yeah,
thing. And I agree with you. And probably my favorite part of this album was Ian's voice. I mean, I like his voice. It's soothing. It's, he
yep.
doesn't go for any of those high screams like he used to, and he was doing that up to a couple albums ago. So I'm sure it's because of an age thing and his range and all.
Yeah.
Because and you really don't want to hear a lot of screaming all the time anyway. But
I think a lot of it too, though. I've seen a few live videos of them from the past 10 years or so, and even back that far, he's not able to hit that stuff in on stage. You know,
but his voice is
I
so
mean,
good, he still can sing at the range he's in. Like you were saying, I mean, it's he's staying to his range, and it's good. I mean, I like his voice a lot actually.
mhm.
And the only, I, I guess the most thing that I mean, I like the album. Don't get me wrong. Good
I,
songs. There's a lot of great riffs. I mean, we can run through them. You got Throw My Bones as number one, Drop the Weapon number two. We're all in the same. We're all the same in the dark for the third track. They're all kind of similar. Had
Right.
the riffs. You know, I kind of had an issue with how some of these songs were written because I feel like they were all structured the same way.
Right.
You had the cool riff, the verse, chorus, guitar solo, keyboard solo, chorus, back out. And that's kind of how a lot of this album was to me. And I, you know, it got to be like they were just plugging in the same formula for every song. Every now and then
Yeah.
they'd switch the keyboard first and then the guitar back. But
Tried and true formula. Yeah, but
it
they
is.
had a couple of songs on here that, like, let me see here. Drop the Weapon. It's a good rocker.
Good
you know,
rocker.
Good rocker.
Great riff.
Then What the What, old school rocker. I was like, oh wow. I really like that, and I really like the way they kind of removed it from being the old rocker with the added measure, in the chorus and stuff like that. It's like,
Well, I do want to comment on that song. I'm glad you brought that song up because I like the old style rock and roll. But the
right,
problem that I had with it was the guitar didn't have that. It needed that strat sound.
right,
It needed a higher tone. You know what I mean? Because it was
yeah,
kind of just, it was just in there. It wasn't. I, I I don't know, man. I think Steve Morse uses too much mids and he gets lost in there.
yeah,
And that song, man, I really wanted to hear that chunky, trebly strat sound, and it just wasn't there. But the
yeah.
player piano was great. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
Don Airy, great,
yeah,
great on it, And I mean, even he did on that song, No Need to Shout. Great rocker, another good rocker. But then he puts the player piano solo in there, so that was kind of odd for me on that.
right,
And then
right.
of course the Step by Step song, which has got that weird time signature. And
Yeah, that I wasn't too crazy about that. I wasn't too crazy about nothing at all. I
yeah,
mean, it just didn't fit the genre. I don't know if it was the genre or if it's more what you're talking about, the guitar sounds or whatever. They
yeah.
just,
Well, it has
yeah,
that little cool Irish Celtic riff going on in there, and I think they're kind of it sounds like they're kind of trying to emulate a violin or something. I don't know. It just reminded me of an Irish song.
yeah.
You
I
know,
thought it totally took away from the song when they started doing that. Now, at one point it was twin, it was guitar and organ,
yeah, and it
the
really,
same thing, and it was just like it was just too busy. I
yeah,
mean, I felt like they needed to milk it. You know,
or cut it in half.
right?
Because it kind of goes on a little bit, and then you start getting it in your head. You're like, man, you know, kind of
Yeah,
weird for sure.
it it's one of those where you couldn't get into the groove of the song because you were. I felt like you were being. It was going to make you a nervous wreck with what they were doing on the lead instruments. It's
Yeah,
like,
kind of,
okay, I'm supposed to groove down here, but
kind of a little frantic almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe that's what they were trying to go for. I don't know. Yeah,
Could be. I mean, I thought it was a neat little riff. I sometimes think bands carry these riffs on too long. Sometimes,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
And again, I'm just being super critical. The great album's a great album. You know,
yeah.
I mean, these guys are still kicking it, man. You know, you get one thing that was weird too was you had Act One. They don't call it Side One, Side Two. They call it Act One and Act Two. So
Mhm.
Act One is the first six songs. So after that step by step weird signature time change, you move into Act Two. So when I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, okay, now we're going to Act Two. We're going to change up. It's got to, it's going to be a big change. Now we're going to Act Two. And it
Right,
started out with What the What, which was a good old style rock. And I'm thinking, maybe Act Two is going to be that way. Maybe it's going to be, a throwback to the old rock and roll. But then you
right,
get to The Long Way Round and The Power of the Moon, which went right back to the same stuff you were having on Act One. So it
right.
had the same formula, same sound, good songs, good riffs, but yet I felt like I wanted something different,
Yeah. Well, I kind of got, yeah. It did kind of sound a little repetitive down in those two.
Mhm.
Uh, the Remission Possible and Man Alive, it just escaped me of what they were trying to do there.
Yeah, well,
I,
on my
I
on
would,
my
I wasn't into it at all. I was like,
You know, and I think that's where the spaceman thing comes from with the whoosh and all that, because it's in there in the talking part. But what I have on my notes is a question mark and weird for those two,
yeah, right.
because Remission Impossible is really like only a setup for it. It's kind of an
It's about
instrumental. Yeah.
it's about a minute and 30 seconds or something.
Right. So it
But
kind
then
of
they
sets you up for the man alive. And then it's like, okay, that's kind of strange, man. The
then,
spoken stuff. I don't know.
yeah, then they come down to and the address. And the only thing I have to do with that one was I put good for a commercial.
Well, let me tell you, that song is a Blackmore John Lord song.
Yeah.
That's an old Deep Purple song that they brought back. So
Okay.
um
Well, it just
the commercial is pretty good. That's pretty good.
yeah. I
And
was
the
like,
name of it and the address are, it's kind of like we're addressing this commercial or something. You're
right.
right. Um
I mean, yeah, it's a good little hook tune, but it's not something that I think that I would want to set out as a musician and learn and put on stage. You know,
and I don't know why they put it on here because I mean, it's a Blackmore Lord song. Maybe it was just a tribute to them, I guess. I don't know. It was just I kind of thought it odd, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, I mean, again, good song, great playing, just something that, I
yeah,
really was hoping Act Two was going to be different, and it just fell right back into the same thing. Now,
yeah,
one thing I will say, the last song is what they call it, a bonus track,
yeah.
Dancing in My Sleep.
I
I
like
want to thank them for putting that on there
I like that.
because that one was different than anything else on it, and I really enjoyed it. It was cool, different, great little things going on. Got a little bit of crazy keyboard stuff happening in there.
Yep.
And to me, when I got to the end of it, I'm like, man, thank goodness they put something different on here.
Yeah, well, to me, it was like the very first song when I first played the album. Throw my bones.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm like, wow, okay, Deep Purple kicking new sounds.
Yep.
It was definitely Deep Purple patent, and 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 again, to me, being a drummer, I always listen to Pace. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the man's phenomenal. He had the fastest hands in the business at one time.
Well, do
Yeah.
you feel like he was kind of held back on this album?
I think he just stayed back in the pocket
Yeah.
because honestly, as a drummer, there was nothing there that lit me on fire to
Yeah.
really make me want to do something other than stay in the pocket and just compliment the song.
See, I missed that because Ian Pace was always you could always expect something on there, you
Right,
know. And then
right.
Roger Glover, you always could expect something. But on this album, I mean, them two were kind of just, I mean, great rhythm section. Don't get me wrong, everything was tight, but I wanted them to open up a little, and it just didn't happen, you know.
Well, one thing I did notice though, and especially on the opening song, Throw My Bones,
Mm-hmm.
Glover sounds like I'm sure he's using a 5 string, probably using a drop D, you know. Uh, and I found that kind of refreshing. I mean, when that song hit my system here at the apartment, I felt the whole apartment shaking.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, you
right.
know, that you ain't got to worry about bass pedals.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of is why, and that kind of why I got annoyed with Steve Morse a little bit, because you had so much low end, and then he was bringing all those crazy mids in, and it just had no high end. I just had no high end there until Don Airy did anything high on the keyboards. I mean, Ian
They
Gillan
could,
obviously is not singing high anymore. Everything was just stuck into that one little thing, and I kind of blame it. I don't know if I should say blame, but I kind of attribute it to Bob Ezrin, the producer mixer. I mean,
right.
he produced it and mixed it. So
That's what I was going to say. And I wonder what the format was they used. I wonder if it was a totally digital format or if they
it was
mixed
totally
any analog and digital in there, because
to me it sounded like all computer digital stuff to me.
right. And
Um,
that, yourself, that just takes the heart and soul out of music.
it does. It kills the live sound, which is what I like.
Yeah.
I like like the last two CDs we heard that we reviewed.
Oh my God.
Wishbone Ash and Blue Oyster Cult. Both of those, you could feel like you were actually watching them play it when you were listening.
Right. Right.
But this one, everything was so compressed in there. It was right here. There was nothing out here, nothing out here.
Yeah.
It was just I really think it was a Bob Ezrin, you know, overproduced, a lot of his writing influence in it. And I think that's what killed it. I think if they would have let Roger Glover do all the production like they did back in Abandon, and even when, even though Rapture to Deep and Bananas had some weird, bad drum sounds,
Mhm.
it was more lively.
Yeah.
And I felt
Yeah.
like
Well,
they were playing to me, you know?
again, you never know what's done on the final mix downs. I mean, you as a band go in there and you agree on, okay, the levels all sound great and all that.
Right.
But once it gets to that point of where they're getting ready to send it off to be pressed or printed or whatever you want to call it, you never know what that last step's going to do.
Right.
It's just like that last demo that I did in Nashville, even though that was all done with Pro Tools and stuff. I told what's his name, Jay. I said, give me an uncompressed version of that. I don't want the compression,
Exactly.
because it cuts the high end out, cuts that low end out, and what you got is that pocket in the middle.
Yeah.
And I feel like I got a duck,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering where the feeling is.
Well, you're bringing the ceiling down,
Right.
And the thing is, when you have a producer that mixes, I think that's a bad idea, because you got one guy's interpretation of this whole thing, where if you had one producer with a mixer, somebody else mixing, you're starting to get, what one guy don't hear, the other does, even
Well, a
on
lot of people,
even on Throw My Bones, I mean, you couldn't even hardly hear the guitar solo.
yeah, a lot of these engineers and producers, I'm not all of them, but a lot of them, they rely on like a live drum kit in a studio. All it's doing is acting like a trigger.
Right. I know. And I hate that.
And, yeah, and they can tune those triggers up and down to match the tone of the drums,
Yeah.
and they can replicate what you're actually hearing, but once you get the final product, it does not work for me.
Right.
It just
And
doesn't.
and that's what I missed on these last three albums, actually, because Abandon and Bananas and Rapture, even though their sound wasn't so great, I knew it was a live drum kit. I mean, you could hear the bass drum and you could hear the snare. On this, it was just all,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Overall, I think the record itself is a good play. I mean, it's worth the buy. Go buy the record. It's a
Oh
good
yeah.
record. I mean, I'll listen to it again. I'm really critical of it because I'm not a big fan of Bob Ezrin, and I haven't been for a while. And I just feel like he puts too much of his influence on these bands with what he wants, and he's not really letting the band be free to do their thing, and I
I
think,
think, just basically, I don't know, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'd have to give it like about a 6.5 or a 7.
yeah, I was going to go to about the 7 range with it because of the production only.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, there are songs on there that knock my socks off. I mean, like I say, Throw My Bones, Dancing in My Sleep was one that caught me by surprise at the very end. I can see why they put it there.
Right.
And
I'm glad they did.
Drop the Weapon. I really like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few songs on there I really like. There were just some areas where I felt like arrangement wise they needed to revisit.
Yeah.
A little too busy lead instrument wise in some passages, but
Yeah. I
all
think
in all, I mean,
I think this album is going to come over a lot better live. I
yeah,
think in a live aspect, these songs are just going to rock your socks, man.
yeah.
And I feel like that, I want to mainly say the sound that Steve Morris's guitar is probably what keeps me from giving this record a higher rating between the production and his sound. If he had more of that crisp sound that he used to have back with the Dregs and with Kansas, and even on the the 98 stuff, and 2000, the early 2000s, his sound was much better to
Well,
me.
all these guys are going for these these custom guitars,
Yeah.
you know,
And
and
he does. He's got his own signature Music Man guitar.
and I got to tell you, there's no beating the old Les Paul sounds. It's no beating the Strats. It's no
Yeah.
beating the Tellys.
Yeah.
And between all three of those guitars, if you can't find the sound you're looking for,
Yeah. Or if you don't have Eddie Van Halen to wire a pickup in there for you. Yeah.
All you
I'm
gotta do
just
is get
kidding.
the drill
I'm
out
just
and
kidding.
run down just.
I just feel like, I missed that old Telecaster sound that Steve used to get, and it would have worked better with this album because there's so much low going on already with the Hammond and Roger Glover and the low bass frequencies and the low
Right,
vocals. It
right.
just needed something to give me that high end, and I just couldn't find it. And I tried it on 3 different medias, right? I said, okay, maybe it's the car, maybe it's my stereo, maybe it's my headphones, but it wasn't. I mean, even in the headphones, I mean, the guitar's in the left, every song is here.
Yeah, I
And
noticed that
then
on my mixer.
and then when the solo was in the middle, but he was always here. And it's like, I need, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
gonna blame it on Bob Ezrin, because I mean, I'm not a
Well,
fan of his, and I mean, that's bad for me. I guess I shouldn't be that way, but
I'll probably get a vinyl copy. I'm not buying CDs anymore unless I absolutely have to.
yeah,
Um, I mean, I've been in search of a couple of CD vinyls that I've had on CD and I've lost them. It's like, well, one of them is Return of the Grievous Angel,
mhm,
the tribute to Graham Parsons. I
yeah,
cannot find that anywhere on vinyl. It's always on CD. But my point is, vinyl seems to open things back up. Even if there's been a digital format put there, it just seems to open it up. I don't know what it is,
yeah.
but it just,
Well, there's
to
nothing
me,
like.
it just blows me away when I throw a vinyl on.
You're right. I mean, and it takes me back too, even because I
Yeah,
mean, I've been listening to a lot of vinyl lately, and my old ones. I don't
yeah,
have anything new because I just haven't bought any new vinyl. But a- and one reason why is because I bought that same record 40 years ago for $3, and now they want $35 for it. You know what I mean? So I know
just
I have
bought
that same. I have that too.
just bought it. 30
Did you?
bucks.
How
It
much?
was $30.
Yeah. See, I bought that album for like $4.
Yeah. Now I got some albums up here on the wall. I got Meet the Beatles. I got the Beatles 6, and both of those play like brand new. And I paid like $3 or $4 a piece for
Exactly. So.
them.
We'll wrap up this review real quick. I'm gonna give it a 7, only because I don't like Bob Ezrin. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Bob. I don't like you very much as far as a producer mixer. I wish you let somebody else mix it.
yeah.
I think you get good drum sounds, but I just don't think it works. I'm gonna give it a 7. Still a good album. I'm being critical on it. I, I s- I'm I still say get it. I mean, the great songs. The songs are great. Don't get me wrong, and I can't wait to see them live.
Yeah. Throw some
Yep.
two preamps in that studio there and start running that stuff through there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, get out of that little compressed box that he keeps sticking them in. And this is the third straight album that it's been that way. And it's like, come on, man. When I saw Bob's name on there, I'm like, not him again. You know, I wanted
Yeah,
to see produced by Deep Purple and Roger Glover. And
yeah, yeah, exactly.
so, so what did you give it? 7, 7.5,
I gave it a 7. I'm gonna
7?
stick with 7. I
Yeah,
mean,
we'll
a
both
few
do 7.
songs, about 3 Ford songs, I gave them a 10. But there were a couple of those that were way down to about below 5.
Individually, I give them all, 10 for their talent. But
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
just felt too much of the album annoyed me. The
Yeah.
production annoyed me. The way they wrote the lyrics on the thing here annoyed me. I mean, I'll show you again because I'm stressing this that it's kind of odd. But I mean, when you're trying to read these lyrics, I mean, how are you going to follow that? I mean, you got to read this going like that. It's like, I, I don't know. Anyway, if
Well,
you
they
if you
expect,
look,
I
go
guess,
ahead.
I guess it's supposed to be through a mushroom pot haze, and sit there and go, "Oh."
I guess. I mean, if I was on drugs, maybe the words would have closer. I don't know.
Uh, well,
That could be the
your
case.
mom and Weeda would line up. You
I mean, for some reason, I guess I just didn't have enough to make my warped mind see it straight. I don't know. It's crazy.
yeah.
Weird album cover, weird lyrics, couple weird
Oh,
songs. Bad to me, bad production and mixing, but
yeah.
good album, good songs. It'll be better live, I think. Um, but anyway, 7 for me, 7 for Mike.
Yeah.
Go buy it, support them. They're still a great band. You can't go
Oh,
wrong.
yeah. Powerhouse band,
They haven't lost it a bit.
no.
All right, so now that brings us to the topic of the day. which today, since we were doing Deep Purple, decided to go with list some of your top or your favorite keyboard players. And I'll tell you, for me right now, I left off piano organ players. I kind of went with the whole gamut of, I wanted, 10 keyboards around them. That's what I was looking for. Because if I went with piano organ players, then this list would be crazy. So we can go into pianists later and worry about that. But for me, for this one, I just kind of stuck with just keyboards. So
yeah.
and I have a lot still on my list, but I'm going to give you number 5 right off the bat,
Okay.
because I saw him play, and you could probably give me more background on this particular guy, because I know he played for some stuff that you listened to back in the day. But I'm going to go with George Duke for number 5.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, he played with Zappa. Is that correct?
Yep. Played with Zappa. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I remember him with all the stuff he did with Stanley Clarke. And one of the reasons why I'm putting him on the list is because I saw him in Virginia Beach, him and Stanley Clarke, and they blew the speakers out of the PA. And I mean, it kind of sucked in a way because the speaker kept rattling. But I mean, with Stanley Clarke and George Duke, I don't know that there's much of a PA that can handle that. So they were that was a monster show, man. I mean, and George Duke is an innovator, So.
Sound crew should have been on top of that and fixed that wild show that's going on.
Right. So
I mean, sorry, but
well, I mean,
that's a lot.
You're right. And it wasn't a big PA because it was outdoors on the beach. So I mean, they just had certain, but every time they hit anything, especially a B, I mean, that thing rattled so hard. It was bad. But the show itself was phenomenal. I mean, you got George Duke, you got Stanley Clarke. What a show.
Oh,
So
yeah.
anyway, my number 5 is going to be George Duke, just because he blew the speaker system in Virginia Beach.
Well, see, I didn't do what you did. I just went for keyboard players. I didn't care if they played was piano or
And that's okay. I mean, yeah.
But I've got to say, I think that I don't know. I mean, these are all. It just depends on the genre you're looking at.
And again, too, I mean, we're not really going by what we think are the best or our
right, exactly.
These are
these are people. We already mentioned Chick Corea, so we just may as well get that one out of the way.
I mean, Chick Corea. Yep.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna go right now. I'm gonna pull Leon Russell up.
Leon Russell. Interesting.
Yeah. That's interesting. That guy was all over the place. He's played on so many records all through the 60s and stuff. It's like,
yeah. Well, that's God. I definitely was not expecting Leon Russell. I will say. So that was a good one. That's that surprises me, actually.
Yeah, he's a monster, man.
Did you ever see him live or anything?
No, I never got to see him live. But one thing I did see, Leon kind of disappeared for a while. There's a little story here. And Elton John reached out and found him.
Yeah.
And drug him out and kind of dressed him up and put him back out in the spotlight, because Elton John, and he's another one on my list.
Yeah.
Elton John loved Leon Russell stuff.
Yeah.
And when he found out that he was not out and about, and I think he had a stroke or something.
Right.
And had laid out for a while.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not real familiar with Leon Russell. So was he solo? Did he play?
Oh, Leon Russell? No. Well, all right. I'll give you a good example. Here's what turned me on.
Yeah, fill me into it, because I mean, I'm missing this.
Joe Cocker's Mad Dogs and Englishmen, that live album they did, with Cry Me a River on it.
Yeah, okay.
Joe Cocker's Cry Me a River and all that, Yeah. Leon Russell put that band together in 14 days.
Wow.
Put that band together, rehearsed them, and arranged all that music, and had them out touring in 14 days.
Right. And I'm sure I've heard Leon Russell.
Oh yeah.
I just couldn't name anything. Like if you told me name something Leon Russell would.
You ever hear a song called "Up on a Tight Wire"?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's Leon Russell.
Yeah. Well, that was his solo stuff too,
Yeah,
right?
that's the
Yeah.
solo stuff.
Well, that's what I was thinking it was, but I mean, I wasn't sure, and I wanted you to give me a little background so that I made sure I was thinking.
He had that Delta. He had that Delta thing going on for that Joe Cocker stuff during Mad Dogs and Englishmen. You know, and I mean, it was just he had anybody and everybody on that album. You know,
that's awesome.
And yeah, another one is going to come out of left field with you. It's Floyd Kramer.
Floyd Kramer.
Last Date. And probably every country music song you heard out of the 50s and 60s, he was playing piano on.
Yeah. Nice.
Or some kind of keys on it, you know.
Well, my number 4 is going to probably, I mean, you probably know why I would pick this, but a lot of people that know me don't know me. You know what I mean? So my number 4 is Herbie Hancock.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking about somebody who took the keyboard to a new height.
Yeah.
That's, Herbie. I mean, a lot of people know Axel F and all that stuff from,
right.
Was it 48 Hours or whatever that movie was?
Right.
But not 48 Hours. Beverly Hills Cop, I think. Anyway, the stuff he did, I mean, he was a genius, man. I mean, they created this stuff before it was actually there. I mean, these guys were creating these sounds that everybody now can do with one finger. So, and Herbie Hancock was a master of it. I mean, again, he's all around. He does all that stuff. He does the synths and the mogs and all that, so mogs, however you pronounce it. So I went with Herbie on that one. So
there you go. There you go.
And he kind of goes into the jazz thing, like we were talking with Chick Corea,
Yep.
And also in that little group of jazz stuff, I wanted to throw in Jan Hammer.
There you go.
I don't know if you have him or not.
No, I don't have any of this stuff, but I know I'm very familiar with this stuff.
This Al Di Meola album, Live Tour de Force Live. I mean, there's a version of Race with the Devil on a Spanish highway. And Jan Hammer and Al Di Meola are just talking about a beast, man. I mean, a beast, So, and you had Steve Gadd on here too, by the way, just in case you're wondering who that great drummer was back there.
I got to say too, I'm glad you brought up that. I'm trying to think of the name of this Japanese girl. It's just wild as the wind on piano playing jazz, and she brings drummers over from here like Steve Smith or Dave Weckl or whoever, and I mean it's her and a bass player and drums,
and she's kind of young too, isn't she?
Yeah, real young.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know her name. We'll get back with y'all on that one.
Yeah,
she is good. I've seen her.
Yeah, she's a monster.
Phenomenal. I know. It's like blows you away.
Yeah.
All right. So what else you got? You got
Leon
Russell and Floyd Kramer.
Yeah, I had to put Rick Wakeman down there.
Yeah, Rick Wakeman. I have him as my number 2, which I have a visual aid for that, by the way.
There you go.
Yeah. On the Close to the Edge album.
Yep.
Which is a great album. You can't really see Rick in there too much, but he's there. Yeah. I mean,
I think the one album he really shined on was Topographical Ocean, because about the same time too he did Henry VIII, right around in that area.
Right.
And my God, I mean,
well,
he was a whole orchestra in himself,
Well, on Yes Songs, when he does his solo, it's like excerpts from Henry VIII, right?
Right.
Henry VIII, yeah. So I mean, that was just crazy. But the guy, I mean, talking about, comes from the classical side of things, and I mean, can do it all. He was probably one of the best synth Moog players out there, really. I mean, the solo stuff that him and Steve Howe did back and forth, and just, great. He was my number 2, and that's a great pick.
Yeah.
So I like that one a lot.
Another one is Tony Kaye.
He did a lot with Yes.
Yeah.
And I had him. I was going to put him down, but I felt like I could name every keyboard player that ever played for Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Patrick Moraz, Jeff Downes, all those guys,
See, to me, those guys came in after Yes had their peak, you know.
Well, actually, Tony K was on the Yes album. That
Yeah, I
was
know.
Tony K.
Very
Yeah,
first, yeah, very
yeah,
first.
but like Jeff Downs, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, got to give props to them. And of course, a
absolutely.
little side step there. You got Keith Emerson.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, Keith. I
uh,
mean, the most
Keith was his
probably
own. Yeah, he was his own entity there. You know?
he was probably the most talented natural talent keyboard player there was.
Yeah.
I mean, Keith. And you know, I remember seeing him on that old Moog system where he's plugging in all the chords and making all these sounds, like on what was it, Lucky Man? That
Yep.
crazy solo he did on Lucky Man, and
Yep. Yep.
yeah, what a monster, Keith Emerson. And I
And
have him down here. I don't have him in my top 5 because I mean, I kind of, everybody knows Keith Emerson is Keith Emerson, and it didn't really, it wasn't part of what influenced me in my music career, or what touched me as much as some of these other guys, which, don't get me wrong, ELP, you know, great stuff. I mean, the guy used to
Oh, yeah.
stab his organ with a knife, you know,
Yeah.
so he used
Yeah.
to beat his organ up with a knife and fight it, you know.
He just hold that key down and stab it and hold it in place so you do other things.
I'm exactly, and I'm pretty sure if you ask people, Keith Emerson probably would be their number 1 picks, you know. Um, and again, we're just kind of listing these. These aren't our favorite or ones that we think are the best. These are just ones that have been part of our lives, you know. So my number 3 is Richard Wright from Pink Floyd. And
Oh yeah.
really,
Oh yeah.
because this Animals album, man,
Oh
is,
my God.
you know, when I first listened to this album, and to me, this will always be my favorite Pink Floyd album. I mean, I love this album. And it's just the sounds that he got on this thing, all the, you know, the keyboard sounds and everything, and the moods he set, and it was just, you know, Pink Floyd would not be Pink Floyd without Richard Wright.
No.
He was a monster.
I saw well, I didn't see Pink Floyd. I saw Roger Waters down at Phoenix outdoor amphitheater.
He was on that tour, right?
Yeah, he had Wright on the tour with him. Wright was doing all of Gilmore's vocal parts.
Right. Oh, that's one of the things people don't realize about him, is he did all that harmony stuff. And
yeah, he was singing all of Gilmore's parts and didn't miss a lick.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
my God, what a show! I mean, I didn't miss Gilmore at all.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm sorry, but David Gilmour, they didn't need him.
to me, Pink Floyd, of course, you know, the original after Sid, to me was what I got into, was that part of Pink Floyd. So we had Gilmour and Roger Waters, but once they split or did whatever they did, I always felt like Roger kept the Pink Floyd. He was Pink Floyd. Him and Richard Wright together.
Roger Waters, he was to revamp Pink Floyd after Sid.
Yeah.
Because Sid Barrett was writing all their stuff and singing,
and
then he flipped out.
Yep.
Went crazy. And so Roger Waters stepped in and
kind of took over.
Oh my God, you know, so many of their albums, there are songs on every one of them that, like Shine On You Crazy Diamond, you know, I mean, oh my God.
That
you
whole
know,
Wish You Were Here, you know, I do the Animals and Wish You Were Here. Those are 2 of my favorite Pink Floyd. I mean, The Wall's great too. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love The Wall, but to me, it was Wish You Were Here and Animals. Those were the 2 for me. If I had,
I like The Wall. I like the live album of The Wall, where you know he had brought all those people in to sing different parts. You know,
great. I mean, a great album. You know,
yeah.
So that's my number 3. It was Richard Wright, and you know, you could, any of these you can switch around anywhere you want. I mean, these are just guys that are just phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, my other one is Billy Payne.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guy's a monster session player and a monster part of the sound of Little Feat. You know, I mean,
yeah,
he knew it. Oh man, and I mean, every one of these are people that I grew up listening to that influenced my playing in one sense or another. And Only other one that's on here, and I don't know, it's a coin toss. So what I love more about her is Diana Krall.
Oh yeah. Well, as far as jazz pianist, she's one of my favorites. I've seen
I
her
love
twice
her, I
in
love her
concert.
vocals. Man.
Seen her twice in concert. Great band. I love her. I love her.
I just remember when my wife and I lived in Chicago. Every day we'd go to work. I go to work here on Northwestern, and we would pass by this place called the Green Mill,
Mhm.
and I'd see the billboard right there off of Western, and it 9 times out of 10 you'd see this name up there at least once a month, Diana Krall.
Yeah. She's
And I'm like,
phenomenal.
I never had a clue at that time.
Really.
Then all of a sudden, bam, there she.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I could have gone to the bar and sat and had drinks and a dinner and watched Diana Krall.
Right. That's crazy, because that would have been the best way to see her.
Yes.
Yeah, I've loved her for years. I've seen her. I actually proposed to my wife before we went to one of her concerts. So that's
There
how
you go.
much Diana Krall means to me.
Yep.
But you took my Rick Wakeman one, which is cool. I figured you probably would get more than just one. So I'm going to switch my other one out with Jeff Downs just because of the stuff Jeff Downs did.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, he did the Buggles thing, video killed the radio star, but that was
Yep.
very heavy keyboard. And then of course he came in with Yes on Drama, which is a great album. I mean, it's John Anderson's not on there, but it was a great album. You had Jeff Downs and Trevor Horn, which ended up that Trevor Horn started producing the later Yes albums with Trevor Rabin came in, so it's kind of crazy. And then of course, Asia, Jeffrey Downs, you had Carl Palmer, Jeffrey Downs, Steve Howe, and John Wetton.
Didn't Tony Kaye play with Asia for a little while?
I think he did on the latter albums.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first two were Jeff Downs, I know for a fact. I don't remember the third one. They've actually got a lot out now, so I'm sure he probably did do something.
Yeah, I saw something with Tony Kaye, and he wasn't behind a big bank of keyboards when I saw this, and he was older, and I swore up and down it was Asia.
It probably was. I mean, they're still going. There's still stuff out. So.
Oh yeah.
So with that switched off, I'm gonna do my number one real quick, and then I've got a list that we can go through. But my number one is gonna be none other than Tony Banks from Genesis.
There you go.
I mean, this is Duke, so obviously this was much later in the career, but all the stuff that Tony can do. I mean, one of the best soloists as far as like one-handed straight up solos. I mean, the guy was amazing. The sounds he got. I mean, you look at the career of Genesis, and I mean, he was there from day one. And I mean, he's phenomenal. He's probably one of my all-time favorites keyboard players. I mean, just his sound. He was so innovative. It changed every album was different. He was always looking for that new sound, and I mean, I think he created so much great stuff. It's just, what can you say?
I tell you, there's so many out there. I mean, I was just sitting here thinking, much as I'm not really a big fan of theirs. Leonard Skinner, Billy Powell,
yeah,
monster player. And then you got bands like the Atlanta Rhythm Section. They did what really drew my attention to the keyboards in the Atlanta Rhythm Section was their version of Spooky. They revamped it from the Classics 4. And because one or two of them were members of the Classics 4.
Yeah.
And when you listen to that part, if you've got a good set of headphones or a good stereo system, put it on, crank it up, and listen to it. That keyboard player is sitting back there. He's playing piano and a clavinet at the same time. The clavinet is so subtle you don't really hear it, but you hear that. Yeah. You hear that bite on top of those piano notes. And it's like,
when they do those two-hand things, man, like that, that's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's how you get your thumb and your little finger coordinated.
Right. And these guys are like running scales on both hands at the same time, Right. And I'm going to throw in a few more real quick, just some that are, notables like Howard Jones, Thomas Dolby, those guys,
Oh, yeah.
I'm also going to go with one that, Gary Wright, the Dreamweaver. Come on, that whole album was basically keyboards.
Keyboards and drums. That's it.
Exactly. He didn't even
played
have
bass lines and everything. And
everything. Yeah. And he was from Spooky Tooth originally, I believe.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got Steve Porcaro from Toto. I mean, you got it,
Yeah.
Jonathan Cain from Journey.
Yeah.
I mean, and then Mark Kelly from Marillion. I mean, the guy was a beast, and then you can't leave out John Lord and Don Airey, which is what we were talking about earlier with the Deep Purple stuff. So, and again, those were piano organ guys. So other than Don Airey was more of a synth player than John Lord.
Yeah.
So, and he goes back to like Ozzy and Rainbow and, several people. So anyway, that's some of my picks, and I hope you guys come on here and give us some comments and tell us who you like, and let us know something.
And also too, make suggestions, point us in the direction of something you'd like to get our opinion on.
Absolutely. I mean, and tell us what you think about our reviews, and tell us what you think of these CDs, because the input from you helps us in the future. So we're gonna keep plowing away, and all the suggestions we can get and comments we can get help us in the long run. So
ain't nothing but a 6-pack away.
Yeah. Cheers to that, right?
Exactly.
I'm sporting a Big Ugly Brewery beer today because I'm a big ugly dude. So
well, I had to do.
We don't get endorsements, by the way, from these.
So. I had to do the organic beer today.
Is that what you're doing? Organic? It's good for you. Goes with the snow, right?
Right. Goes with the snow.
All right. Well, I guess that'll wrap it up for this week. Look forward to hearing from you guys. Comment, like, subscribe, share. Tell us that we're doing great. Tell us we're doing crappy. Give us your ideas on the CD. Give us your keyboard players. Give us some suggestions for our next stuff. So
exactly.
Until next time, you guys be safe.
Adios. Sayonara. See you later.